way food is engineered right now to make sure that we are very addicted to these foods. The sound of the chips when you take a bite out of it, or the smell and the presentation of the burger or cookies, all of them are cues to signal our brain that this makes us feel good, and therefore you find them irresistible.
Vanakkam listeners, I'm Ashika, your host for the day. In today's fast-paced world, where processed foods, irregular eating patterns, and busy lifestyles are common, understanding the foundations of good nutrition has never been more important. Mindful eating isn't just a trend. Nutrient-rich foods like fruits and vegetables can not only cut the risks of non-communicable diseases, but can boost immunity and longevity. Learning the basics of balanced nutrition early can turn everyday meals into powerful tools for lifelong health. Today, we are joined by Meenu Balaji, founder of Pragmatic Nutrition and a qualified nutritionist specializing in gut and child nutrition. In this episode, we'll explore why healthy eating matters, especially during the teenage years, how families can build better food habits, and what simple steps can create lasting impact. Hello, Meenu. So first, let me start with why it is so important to build healthy eating habits early in life.
First 1,000 days of life builds the foundation of lifelong health and wellness. So when kids don't develop healthy eating habits early in their life, chances are they might become picky eaters. And when I say picky eating, this not only affects the nutrition deficiency, but it can also lead to weight gain because of unhealthy eating habits. And a lot of kids these days develop insulin resistance, diabetes, and even fatty liver, which is pretty concerning. And that is why laying the right foundation from the early years of life is very crucial.
We often hear that teens skip meals, especially breakfast. What happens to the body and brain when meals are irregular?
Teens skip meals for various reasons. Now, it could be because they're in a rush to get to their school or college, or it can be because they're trying to lose weight and they want to eat less. So either way, skipping meals is not doing them any favor because it causes blood sugar crashes and spikes later in the day if they're not fueling right, because the brain actually needs glucose consistently. So this lack of nutrition right the first thing in the morning can also affect the way the brain processes information throughout the day. And that is why even in adults, if you see a lot of them when they skip their meals, they find themselves to be tired later in the day and they start looking for sugary foods and they crave a lot of foods and end up eating unhealthy foods. So what this does is it leads to poor focus, irritability, anxiety, afternoon crashes, and reduced academic performance. And not just that, it can also impact their metabolism, because if they're not getting enough calories, then of course they're not going to stay in a healthy weight range.
Right. When we think about a growing teenager, what nutrients do you think are absolutely essential and why?
The most important nutrients for a growing teenager would be, according to me, protein. Of course, this goes without saying. They need protein for muscles. Now, protein is not necessary just for their muscle function. It is also needed for supporting the immune system and also producing various neurotransmitters that are important for regulating their mood and for sleep. The other micronutrients that are important are, say, iron, zinc, and iodine, which are required again for cognitive function, for their hormonal function and immunity. And we know in India, most of the teenage girls are deficient in iron, and they have this condition called iron deficiency anemia. The next nutrient would be omega-3 fatty acids. This is an essential fatty acid which helps to reduce inflammation. You can find them in fatty foods and flax seeds, chia seeds. They're important again for the cognitive function, for their focus and mood. The fourth one would be calcium, vitamin D, and magnesium. Most Indians are deficient in magnesium. and vitamin D. This is a pattern that I see across a lot of my clients, especially in teenagers, although we get plenty of sunlight. So without vitamin D, calcium and magnesium, the bone structure may get impacted, and it is also required for neuromuscular function. But unfortunately, the type of foods that teenagers eat nowadays is mostly high in fat, sugar and salt.
So these days, many teens consume HFSS foods, which is high in fat, sugar, and salt. So I'm trying to understand what exactly makes these foods problematic from a nutritional standpoint.
The HFSS foods actually are high in calories, as you can see, but they're low in micronutrients. So you can consider them as unhealthy sources of foods. What they do is they spike blood sugar levels, they can increase inflammation and impair insulin signaling. So this is also linked to developing acne, low immunity, mood swings, poor concentration and hormonal disruption. And teenage being a period where a lot of teens experience hormonal fluctuations, eating these kind of foods is only going to make things worse for them, because a lot of teenage girls come to me saying, I have excessive acne on my face, there's very severe hair fall, and what do I do about it? And it goes to the extent of affecting their confidence levels as well. So it's best to avoid these foods, since in teenagers these foods directly affect their skin, their energy levels and even their mental sharpness.
As we know, HFSS foods are extremely appealing. So from a biological or food science perspective, what do you think makes them so hard to resist?
The high fat, sugar and salt foods, they are hard to resist, not because lack of willpower, but because these foods are specifically engineered to be so. Now here's the interesting part. We have this feel good hormone called the dopamine, which is produced in the brain and we have this reward system in the brain through the dopamine pathways, and these reward systems were built in to help us during survival mode. But the food science developments and the way food is engineered right now has hijacked these pathways to make sure that we are very addicted to these foods. And say for example, the sound of the chips when you take a bite out of it, or the smell and the presentation of the burger or cookies or cake that you're having, all of them are cues to signal our brain that this makes us feel good, and therefore you find them irresistible.
So we usually come across advertisements almost every day, right? When we travel, when we are on our phones. So I'm trying to understand here, to what extent do advertising, social media, and this everyday media exposure shape young people's food preferences and cravings?
Advertisement plays a huge role in how a child or a teen perceives food, because if that is projected to be as something that's cool, it's something that's everyone around them is going to be trying, then obviously they'd also want to try it and be a part of the circle, right? Now, beyond advertisements, one most concerning things for teenagers is the influence of social media. As we are well aware, this brings about a lot of issues like body image dissatisfaction, both in girls and boys in teenage years, and that's something that I see in my practice as well. So I would tell all these lovely children that you are great just the way you are. So you don't have to change the way you look or anything else to fit into or feel more worthy. So be more confident and focus on including healthy foods and following a healthy lifestyle, and you will feel better naturally.
If parents want to improve their family's nutrition starting this week, can you suggest 3 practical, realistic changes that you would recommend?
3 practical changes that parents can start making this week. In fact, let's start today, right? So the easiest thing that you could start today is have a family meal together. It could be dinner after a long day, wherein you put your devices out and have a conversation with your children and enjoy food. There's nothing like sharing the joy of sharing a meal with your family at the end of a very hectic day, and you get to de-stress together. So that's one easy thing that you can start. Although we don't do it nowadays, and all of them have their own devices, they have their own spaces to go and eat their food. So please start with one meal a day, and that would be great. The second thing that I would ask you to do is involve your children in meal planning. So ask them what they want to make in the regular meals. Give them choices that they can pick from. Cook meals together and do, meal planning, meal prep, or could be a very simple evening snack like a pancake or something in the evening. So baking pizzas at home, or even making like a nice boiled sprouts chaat, whatever your child prefers eating. The third one, to all the parents who are listening to this, is whatever you do is what your children are learning. So if you are insecure about the way you look, you're constantly obsessing over your weight and your belly fat and you're restricting yourself, then that's what your children will also learn. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't lose weight or you shouldn't eat healthy. Of course, you should do all of this. But over obsession and not feeling confident just the way you are will also affect your child's body image. So feel confident the way you are. Continue working on your health and wellness every single day without feeling bad about yourself. So it should come from a place of self-love. So these are some of the easiest or most effective changes that you can start doing right from today, and the rest of them from this week.
Thank you, Meenu, for sharing such practical and science-backed insights on nutrition. From understanding the hidden impact of HFSS foods to building mindful eating habits early, today's conversation shows that small, consistent changes at home and in daily meals can shape a lifetime of healthier choices. Remember, nutrition isn't just about what we eat today. It's about supporting brain development, immunity, and overall well-being for years ahead. Parents and teens alike can make simple swaps and informed choices that add up to big health benefits over time. For over 40 years now, Citizen Consumer and Civic Action Group has been working to protect citizens' rights in consumer and environmental issues and promote good governance processes, including transparency, accountability, and participatory decision making. This podcast series, Studio CAG, like our work itself, will cover various areas of interest to the average citizen and consumer. Follow us on our social media pages, CAG Chennai. So you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and even LinkedIn to keep yourself updated of both social and environmental news. You can also check out our website www.cag.org.in, and our YouTube pages will also have lots of information which might be of interest to you. Until we meet next time, goodbye.